John Felt here, and this is the weekly weather briefing. And last week, if you heard my briefing, I said that Dorian would be the weather story, and that is what occurred. You can see the path of Dorian's rainfall here, and as it got closer and closer to the coast, you can see it brought some of that rainfall inland. So starting right here, that's over 2 inches of rain, and even some 5 inches or more, 5 to 10 inches along the immediate coast. As it came across Florida, maybe some pockets here around Jacksonville, some heavier rain, but not nearly as much. But look at this, just offshore. This is where it was so close, just 50 miles further to the west, and it would have had not only the higher winds, but rainfall much, much higher. Now, we also had a tropical system push across northern Mexico here, and it brought some rainfall here, generally 1 to 3 inches over the far south tip of Texas, and this is an area that really needed additional rain. So this is an example that for the most part, tropical systems, when they move inland, can produce beneficial impacts or very hazardous impacts. So here's a track of Dorian, and you might have read I put something out about the accumulated cyclone energy, and I'll probably put a summary out this week. But that's a measurement of the total tropical energy, and Dorian just set a record for what we've had for many years, and it's not just the intensity, but it's the duration of this system. So Dorian's going to go down in the record books as definitely devastating impacts across the Bahamas and parts of North Carolina, but also just for the overall intensity and duration of this system. And it's been picked up in the upper flow now, so it's accelerating off, not a tropical system anymore. So you can sort of see it became a tropical storm right out here on August 24th. St. Thomas, it became a hurricane, just brushed north of Puerto Rico. And then there were two spots where it became a major hurricane right here. It actually became a Category 5 right at this point. And then it came apart, or didn't come apart. The winds came down a bit. Still a Category 3, and then it again intensified. So the two areas, Category 3 or above, are these two purple spots right here. But some of the impacts on the U.S., you can see because of how close it came to the shoreline right here. And then it went, of course, right over the parts of the Bahamas right here. And this is the peak intensity with the 185 mile an hour wind. So a historic storm and devastating impacts across parts of the Bahamas, not all. Taking a look at the precipitation in a little bit more detail, you can see here the red is 5 inches or more, yellow is 3 inches or more, and then here's South Texas, spotty areas, most areas about an inch, inch and a half in this area south of this line right here. But as you get further closer to the southern border, you can see more reports of 3 inches or more. So rivers responded to the rainfall, but more localized in spots over the far eastern coastal sections of North Carolina, smaller parts of South Carolina. And then we have the Missouri River as well, also running high in spots where it's been so busy over the middle part of the nation. Now we've had a fairly strong contrast in temperature. In this briefing, I'm going to be explaining that that's going to be balancing out. And what we've had is we've had some pleasantly cool weather averaged over in this area with a dip in the jet stream, and then a ridge in the jet stream in the west, and unusually hot weather. And like I said, when you get these gradients of temperature or humidity, that's when you get a lot of your weather. But I think that's going to be sort of equaling out, and that's what we'd expect late September and October. So soils are wet in spots. Matter of fact, even though there's been quite a bit of flooding, many of these areas here in the eastern Carolinas were quite dry. So in many areas, this went from very dry to very wet. Smaller parts of South Texas even went from dry to wet, but this is, again, an area that needs more rain. Now, if you look at the Corn Belt, most areas are in good shape, although we're getting closer to harvest time here, definitely than planting season, so we're looking more for some dry opportunities at this stage rather than prolonged wet conditions. So the tropics remain quite active. You know, when there wasn't much going on early in the season, I talked about it being sort of backloaded where you still had all this energy. And why do we have this energy? Well, we have this energy because the ocean is unusually warm in many spots, and that provides that potential energy. And then as we get a system, it becomes kinetic energy. And you can see that we do have a number of systems here. And the one we need to watch is not a high probability of development. It might just stay more disorganized. But the bad news is coming over the Bahamas and later this week. And even if it doesn't become developed, any additional rain over that area obviously is not needed and could cause further problems in the recovery. So we'll keep an eye on that. This system's taking a southern track. We'll keep an eye on that. This is a better chance of developing way out there. So at least this week we don't need to worry about that. So the jet stream right now, what we have is sort of a weak jet stream, very weak. Here are your jet streets. Here's one and here's one. We have a dip in the jet stream that's sort of beginning to develop in this area. That's going to have an impact on our temperatures. Looks like it's starting to sort of go north here. So when we look at this here, the big changes that are coming are that we're replacing this dip here with a ridge of high pressure over a large part of the central and eastern U.S. And then over parts of the northwest, we're replacing a ridge of high pressure with a trough. So we're sort of reversing temperatures here. And you can see that here, the areas that enjoyed some pleasantly cooler late summer weather, it looks like it's going to be hotter than normal over a large part of the nation. So when we get in week 2, most of the nation, except for the west coast, should be experiencing above normal temperatures. So that's the big temperature trend here. If you've enjoyed the cooler and less humid weather, looks like it could get back to a sort of a late summer pattern of above normal temperatures and probably some humidity as well. Now, the spot where we get some precipitation this week, we're going to have sort of an onshore flow in the Pacific Northwest, so there definitely could be some enhanced precipitation along the immediate west coast. Otherwise, a weather system, a boundary over the far upper Midwest, some heavy rain in that area. Other than that, it looks like a fairly quiet precipitation pattern across the nation. Now, we look at the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14, we can really see. I started off my briefing by saying how we're going to sort of break up this cool, warm pattern and sort of get more of a uniform pattern. And I think you can see it here in the 6 to 10 day. Most of the country, with an exception of parts of the Pacific Northwest, above normal temperatures and well above normal temperatures over the middle part of the nation, including a good part of the Corn Belt. And 8 to 14 day, week 2, almost the entire nation, actually all the nation above normal temperatures. 6 to 10 day, here's your precipitation outlook. Does look like fairly good chance of rain over parts of the central Corn Belt over the next couple weeks. This doesn't mean every day. This just means occasional chances of precipitation. And as far as the weather risks go, it looks like sort of in the middle part of the nation as far as the heavy rain risk, upper Midwest. And as that ridge builds much above normal temperatures, especially on the 9th and 10th over parts of the southeast. So that's pretty much this week's briefing. I've got it out a little bit late. I was on some travel over the last number of days, so getting caught up again this upcoming week. And I know Dorian, I had a lot of content on that on the last week, but I think I should be getting caught up with some topics I've been wanting to write about as we go forward. Have a great week.